What's up, everybody? How are you guys doing? Welcome to Jake Richardson's Coaching Corner. We are on season 2, episode 14. The topic of the day is excuses versus life coming at you. What do I mean by that? Life is gonna have ups and downs, left and rights, twists and turns, and you have to figure out a way to deal with them. You can't always have the perfect answer. There's never always a solution for something. Sometimes you just gotta sit in it, sometimes you gotta deal with it. And then when you do decide to do that, you end up becoming a better individual. Or you can choose the excuse route where it's somebody else's fault or you're not necessarily involved, even though you are involved. And there's always something that you could throw your pressure, your problems onto, and not put it onto yourself. And that's what today's focus is going to be on, the difference between the two and what you should and should not do. So, jumping right into it, what's an excuse? An excuse is an attempt to lessen the blame attached to you, or seeking to defend or justify. So within the definition, like I said, you're trying to lessen your own blow. You're trying to lessen anything attached to you. You're trying to throw it somewhere else onto something else, or you're trying to seek, defend, or justify why you did something, why something is happening, and just get the fuck off you. That's really what you're trying to do. Excuses are a dime a dozen. A 2-year-old all the way to a 9-year-old will have an excuse for some shit they don't really want to deal with. And I feel like it's the easy way out. People are full of them. At some point in the day, you'll create an excuse why you shouldn't go to the gym, why you'll do your laundry tomorrow, why your job sucks, why you're in the situation that you're in and you're not in a better situation. There's always going to be an excuse or a why or some shit like that. And every individual person does it. Even myself, I am trying to stay very locked on and put as much pressure on myself to get things done. And throughout the day, there will be one thing that I make an excuse for to not end up doing. Because you only have 24 hours. And within those 24 hours, you're only awake for 16 of them. So you're not going to be able to get everything done that you want to get done within those 16 hours. So you'll make excuses, and some things will have priority, other things won't. And that's just life. But what we're trying to do today is eliminate major excuses that hinder you from your success, that hinder you from becoming the individual that you're supposed to become. So why do we make excuses? Number one, to cover up. I won't get into specifics of excuses in which people cover up, but let's get into the major bubble of why people cover up. People cover up to save themselves, to make sure the blame doesn't get thrown on them. That within itself is not good, because then you create layers of lies or layers of excuses that you have to constantly remember and constantly stay up on, because if you don't, then everything unfolds and it ends up getting thrown on you anyways. Covering things up usually are never good. When people are putting a shitload of cover up makeup on themselves, it's because they're trying to hide blemishes. They're trying to hide things that they don't like people to see. You making excuses and covering them up, or your excuse is the cover up, is you trying to hide blemishes, try to hide things that you don't want people to see. That is never good. What you need to do is allow the sun to hit your fucking face. You need to allow your body to actually open its pores up and breathe. That's where you don't make excuses. That's where you accept what's happening to you. Allow your fucking skin to breathe. Allow your pores to open up in the unliteral sense. So covering up is the main reason, one of the main reasons why people make excuses. Number two, they shift blame. Like I said, 2-year-old and 9-year-old, everybody's shifting blame. If you break something, instead of you saying it was me, you blame it on the dog, or you blame it on the next person to your left, or so forth and so forth. We love to shift blame. We do it at work, we do it in our personal life. You do it all day, every day. What that does is, once again, creates a weaker individual. When you're shifting blame and you're not taking it on yourself, you're making yourself weaker and weaker and weaker. And to me, it's better. As much as it fucking sucks to accept blame, sometimes it's just such a fucking relief. All this weight gets taken off your shoulders. You put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and you will make it through. People think that you're gonna die somehow just because you're accepting blame and you're not trying to push it away. Trust me, you will make it through. You will survive. But if you're somebody that tries to shift blame, it'll just eat you away. People won't trust you. People won't want to be around you. Friends, family. There's no room for it. The majority of people that will be in your life are trying to better themselves. If you're an individual that shifts blame or is in a negative state, you will notice a lot of people don't pick up your phone calls. A lot of people don't text you back. A lot of people don't really want to be around you because they're on a projection and a course to get better. And all you're doing is getting worse and worse and worse. And a number one trait to become worse and worse and worse and worse is to shift blame around and never accept it yourself. Number 3, lessen the blow. So people make excuses to lessen blows that are going to come at them. They might not lessen the whole blow, but at the very end of the day, instead of it's a metal baseball bat coming at you, when it hits you, it ends up being a feather because you've layered all these excuses of why. And people, more often than not, read through your bullshit. They know that you're lying or making an excuse, but they're so tired of it that they're like, whatever the fuck, just do what you gotta do so I can keep pushing and get to where I need to go. Because if I sit here and waste any time talking to you and listening to your excuse, I'm gonna delay my success. So lessening the blow is big, but it's also, like I said, accept the fucking blow. Sometimes getting punched in the face, sometimes getting hit in the chest will wake you up. If it doesn't end up killing you, as long as it's not a missile aimed at your head or your chest, then yes, accept it, because those blows will end up making you stronger. And the stronger that you are, the more you know how to roll with the punches and make people miss, the better you'll end up being. But yeah, weak people love to lessen the blow, not necessarily for the pain aspect, but for the fear aspect. If you've never been hit before, or if life hasn't hit you physically or emotionally, then when it is approaching, you just crumble. Rich people, and no disrespect to rich people, because everybody in all the middle class, the poor, the rich feel this, but heavily rich people, when you have been rich your whole life and you don't know a lifestyle without it, when your money gets taken away from you, people crumble. They kill themselves. They go into mass depression because they do not know who they are without their money. If you look at suicide percentages within the classes, the upper echelon white collar classes have the most suicides, and that is based on their fear and them trying to lessen the blow without dough. And that is wild to me. You should always be accepting of the punches being thrown at you. You should very much so rely on yourself and kind of rock through that. So lessening the blow is a big one, in which white people make excuses. And then avoiding responsibility. Children make the most excuses because children don't have to deal with responsibility. They have somebody wiping their ass. They have somebody making their food. They have somebody taking them to school. They have somebody picking them up. They have somebody putting them to sleep. There's no responsibility as a child. So when you don't have a lot of responsibility, excuses are extremely easy to make when it comes to homework, when it comes to eating your vegetables, when it comes to brushing your teeth. There's always an excuse. And parents deal with so many excuses. That's why you watch a parent get old as fuck real quick, because excuses do nothing but break you all the way down into exhaustion. The only sad part is you can't get rid of your kid because you got 18 more years to develop this motherfucker and hope that you can limit their excuses. But in the beginning, children make mass excuses. If you're an adult that makes a lot of excuses, it's just because you haven't grown. People grow in different paces and different stages. I can find an 18-year-old that's lived a hard life that makes zero excuses and gets a lot done, and I can be a 60-year-old that's had their ass patted and money handed to them, and the disparity in which one person makes excuses and the other person gets it going would be astronomical, and one would be 18 and the other would be 60. So age doesn't necessarily mean that you won't make excuses and you become more and more mature. It's about life and what you have gone through and where you want to be. Don't allow avoiding responsibility to hinder your growth. You should be trying to figure out ways to take on more and more responsibility. That doesn't mean getting more credit cards, getting in financial debt, uh, having more kids, anything like that. That just means figure out ways. If you have nieces and nephews, do things to where you can become responsible to help them out when it comes to schooling, when it comes to sports, when it comes to those types of things. If you have friends that need some help that isn't financial, just it has to do with you dedicating a certain amount of time, a certain amount of responsibility to help them out. There are simple ways to add responsibility onto your plate that will help you with your human growth. So responsibility and not avoiding it is probably the easiest, fastest, best thing that you could do to get out of making fucking excuses. Who do we hurt when we make excuses? People depending on you. That's the biggest one. Fuck yourself. You will survive regardless. It takes a lot for somebody to really just shut it all down and jump off a bridge. There's a lot of things that get in front of you before you decide to do that. But when you make excuses, you hurt everybody around you. You hurt your family. You hurt your significant other. You hurt the people that you're in class with, the people that you're in working with. You only hurt those people because you're pushing your excuses onto them, and that puts more pressure on them to pick up your fucking lazy ass slack. So you hurt a lot of people around you, and it's sad because then those people, when they do get hurt, drift and push away from you because you have nothing to provide. I tell people this all the time. If you are in my life, you have to do one of three things. You have to make me laugh, you have to make me think, or you have to motivate me. If you can do one of those three things, then I'm extremely drawn to you because I love laughter. I love thinking because it helps me get into places that I want to be when it comes to progression. And then I love being motivated because, once again, that helps me get into places I want to be with my progression. So those are three pivotal things for me that want me to have people around them. When people don't have something that they can connect with when it comes to you and they look at you as more of a liability than an asset, then you're laying them down and there's no room for you. And more often than not, you make excuses of why your life is the way it is, why your finances are the way they are, or why your lack thereof emotion, when your emotional development isn't there. So they can't rely on you for pretty much anything. So you very much so let down the people around you the most, the people that care the most, because all they want to do is see you do well. But you don't even want to see yourself do well. And because you don't want to see yourself do well, you make excuses of why you're not doing well, and you just project it all the way out. The second person that you hurt when you are making excuses is obviously yourself. You do eventually damage yourself because you can only make so many excuses until one day when it's already too late, you finally look at yourself as the big problem. People fight and claw. That's why you make excuses. The reason why you make excuses is because your biggest fear is to look into a mirror and be honest with yourself and pull yourself out of whatever bullshit that you're stuck in. Nobody wants to do that. People make excuses because they want to push and project and do all those things. But the last thing that they really want to do is sit there just with themselves and try to pick apart your flaws, build what you're good at, and eventually become better. People don't. If it was that easy and everybody at a certain time could just snap out of it and become better, the world would be way better. But the world is not better. There's too many depressed, excuse making motherfuckers out there that slow the whole ship down because they do not have an oar in their hand and they're not helping paddle. They're sitting in the back as dead weight, moping and complaining, asking when are we gonna get there and blah 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 and all the bullshit. So you end up letting yourself down. And like I said, you don't realize it until it's too late. And it's usually too late because you're approaching the end of your life, or you have a severe illness, or nobody is around you anymore. Nobody wants to be around you. And they never want to be around you because they're sick of the bullshit and they don't believe you. So that's always the sad part. It's just always way too late. If you're somebody that's listening to this and this sounds a lot like you, make the change now. That's my best advice. And don't sit there and be like, I don't know how to. There's a million ways that you could help not make excuses. Simplest way to begin with, get the fuck up and go work out. Second simplest way, create a regular daily positive routine. When you get up, make sure you splash cold water into your face. Make sure you brush your teeth. Make sure you're eating a healthy meal to start your day. Create these simple routines and they will get you into a place of progression. Going to the gym will get your endorphins going, will get your confidence up, and it'll put you in a path of progression. If you can work from the inside out, the people aspect takes care of itself. You shouldn't be running around trying to attach yourself to people thinking that that's going to help minimize your excuses and increase your status. You will increase your own status by believing in yourself, creating a routine, working out, eating right, and everything else will take care of itself. That is the simplest way. If you're somebody listening to this, that is the simplest way to change your whole life. Get a morning routine, hit the gym, go on a run, eat healthy, then watch what happens. Try that for 2 months and then message me back and dare tell me that you're in a worse position. I bet you'll be in a better position than you are sitting on your ass, watching TV, eating bullshit. Flip it. Whatever you're doing that's holding you back, pick the complete opposite and start doing that shit. What strengths do you weaken when you make excuses? Reliability. Like I said, nobody wants to rely on you. You don't even rely on yourself. So you're weak in reliability tremendously. 2, accountability. Nobody believes in you. You don't hold yourself to a standard. You don't believe in yourself. Accountability isn't there. 3, leadership. If reliability and accountability are the 2 major things that you need to be a leader, you don't have those, you will never be a leader. And people don't realize being a leader isn't a trait necessarily that you're born into. It's a trait that you can develop and go further on. There are a lot of people, me, for example, I'm a natural born leader. It has always felt right to me to lead. But there were certain times in my life where it got exhausting, where I didn't want to do it anymore, so I slightly fell back. If it was something that was just natural and you could just go and go and go, you didn't have a choice to throttle down or pick it up, then you would just be going a million miles an hour and not be able to stop it. You have control on ramping it up or pulling it back. And you right now can lead by so many different ways. You could lead by example. You could lead by motivating. You could lead by talking to people. You could lead in silence. There's a million different ways in which you could lead. You have to find your style and then apply it. But leadership is huge. People that make excuses are never going to be leaders because leaders need to take on all that weight and take on all that pressure to help people get to positions where they didn't even think they could be. You're not only working on getting yourself to a position that you didn't think you can get to, but you're trying to pull people with you in a positive direction. If you look at any major leader that is really good at what they do, a lot of people are following them and leaning on them. You have to have strong legs. You have to have a strong core. You gotta have a strong back, mentally, physically, emotionally, to get people and yourself to a better position. What's the definition of life coming at you, good and bad coming at you, and your ability to handle it? So excuses are throwing on somebody else. But when it comes to life fucking hurling all the bullshit at you, good and bad, it's you knowing how to handle both very well and then apply, lead, motivate, do all those things. Like I said, the best way when it comes to handling life, good and bad, is treating them both the same. Very even, very calm, very calculated. What's the difference between this and excuses? You handle it. Excuses you pass on to somebody else. Life being thrown at you, you handle it and you depend on yourself to use all the qualities that you have, use all the confidence that you have, and deal with situations the way they should be dealt with. Instead of excuses, throwing it on to other people, freaking the fuck out, not knowing what to do. That's a huge difference. Number two, you make no excuses. The way that you handle life and the way that you become successful is you limit your excuses. And here's the big misconception. Things are not going to sometimes happen in your favor. It is okay to explain why they're not working in your favor, as long as you tell me what you're going to do to mitigate or to enhance the lesser that you were dealt with. So an excuse is telling me what happened to you and how you gave up and how you need somebody to help you out. When life is thrown at you and you go, okay, this sucks, but I'm not done yet. I will make my way out of it. I will get better. When athletes blow their knees out, athletes that you never hear of again that fall by the wayside are ones that just give up. Athletes that go to rehab, strengthen that knee, get back into the league, and become the NFL, NBA, MLS MVP, those are guys that handle life. Life is crazy. There's no... Pick anybody that's had an amazing life, interview them, and they'll tell you 10 horrible things that happened. Because everybody's had horrible things that happen. Life is up and down. You have to handle the good and bad the same exact way. Because if you don't, you're going to set yourself up for huge disappointments. Number three, no matter what happens, you accept the blame. Get in the pattern of doing that. Right or wrong. It's okay to accept blame. It doesn't mean that you have to digest blame. There's two different things. Accepting blame and digesting blame are very different. If you know you haven't done something wrong and somebody's hitting you with it, don't try to push it away or deny it, because it makes you look worse. What you do is you tackle it head on and you work as hard as you possibly can to prove that whatever they're accusing you of isn't true. That is how you handle life. Excuses, like I said, you're throwing it all over the place and you look even more guilty. So being able to, no matter what happens, accept the blame and then prove your innocence. Because life, in the judicial system, they say innocent until proven guilty. Life is not like that. Life is very much so guilty until proven innocent. And the proving of innocence all relies on you and how hard you are willing to fight for it. And I think that is big. That's a huge separator between excuse and accepting and handling life. Is just, who gives a fuck who's saying what? Who gives a fuck what people think about you? How do you prove all of them wrong? And how do you get to the position that you want to be in a positive way? If you're doing things with a positive mindset, with a positive attitude, and with good intentions, amazing things will always happen. If you watch the history of people, more often than not, the people that have great intentions, that are trying to help people out and do a great thing, end up living and dying in amazing lights. The people that do the complete opposite eventually get exposed and die horrible deaths or live horrible lives. So go into everything with a great mindset and great energy, and positive things will happen. Life is going to be wild, but you'll be able to handle it. What skills do you develop when you do this? When you handle life, what skills are you developing? Resilience. Resilience is key to make it 80, 100, 100 plus. Ask every single one of these people what they've had to go through. They've gone through the ringer, because to be on this earth that long, crazy things happen, and you have to be extremely resilient, and you have to never want to give up, and you have to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So resilience is huge when you're handling and tackling life. Leadership. You have to lead eventually. You don't got to lead all the time, but eventually you have to lead friends and family. You have to lead your kids. You have to lead your spouse. You have to lead yourself from dark times into the light. So those are big things. Leadership is huge. Fortitude. They kind of collide together. Resilience and leadership, I think, creates fortitude and makes you this fucking steel wall that nobody can fuck with. And you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you get to where you want to be. And then encompassing it all is major growth. The more that you can grow at very early stages in life, the better you'll be. Mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, you will cover all the bases, and they will all start flowing together to where you don't have to individually break each one down. Eventually, they all mesh together, and you're just extremely successful. So, with all that being said, be somebody that shies away from excuses. Excuses will just lead you into dark, muddy holes that just makes it really hard to see, really hard to get out of, and you end up going nowhere. When you could tackle life, when you could realize and accept that things are going to be great and things are going to be shitty all at the same time, or at very close stages in time, and you can go into it with the same level-headed mindset, life will be very easy. Life will be very fun, and people will want to be around you. With that being said, that is the end of this episode. Thank you very much for paying attention. Thank you very much for listening. If you like it, hit me with a like. If you don't like it, hit me with a don't like. Leave some comments. Do all that stuff, because I want to expand this podcast. I want to reach as many people as I possibly can and help you realize that in life, it's just you. There are people around you that will help when you reach your hand out to kind of pull you up. But the first movement has to be both of your hands touching that ground and crunching your ass up to get your ass eventually off the ground. So realize that nobody else is here to help you. Nobody's that care about you more than you care about yourself. So get your ass up. Also, with that being said, don't forget to stick your hand out and help the next person trying to get up. Family, friends, spouse, loved ones. They need your help just as much. So don't forget, reach out to them, keep an open dialogue, and just let them know that you love them. Sometimes that's the biggest thing that people need to hear to help them make it through their day. So simple things like that are going to help you create your tribe and you guys flourish. So with that being said, get the fuck out of here. Change somebody's day. Change your own day. Get better. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.